It was 2 a.m., somewhere in the Italian countryside. The rhythmic hum of the night train was the only constant, carrying its unsuspecting passengers through the silent darkness. Within a first-class compartment, a solitary figure, dreaming perhaps of equations and atomic structures, was utterly unaware that his journey had just taken an irreversible detour. In the clandestine world of espionage, some operations are defined not by explosive action, but by an almost surgical precision, a quiet audacity that reshapes the geopolitical landscape. This is the story of one such unseen intervention, a moment in 1975 when the fate of a nation, perhaps an entire region, hung in the balance, tied to the meticulously planned disappearance of a single man. Before we delve into the shadows of this extraordinary true story, let us know in the comments below. Where are you watching Black Protocol from today? To understand the unseen forces at play, we must first look at the volatile year that was 1975. The year 1975 represented a precarious moment in the Middle East, a landscape still raw from the psychological and strategic aftershocks of the 1973 Yom Kippur War. For Israel, the conflict had been a brutal awakening, shattering deeply held assumptions of military invincibility and forcing a radical re-evaluation of its existential threats. The initial setbacks had underscored a vulnerability previously unimagined, sparking a profound national anxiety that permeated every level of government and society. In stark contrast, across the border, a different power was rapidly consolidating its strength. In Iraq, Saddam Hussein, a dictator whose rise was characterized by ruthless ambition and an unwavering commitment to regional dominance, was steadily cementing his grip on power. Fortified by the surging oil prices that followed the global energy crisis, Iraq embarked on an aggressive campaign of military modernization and expansion. This campaign was not limited to conventional weaponry. More disturbingly, it included a declared pursuit of weapons of mass destruction, a strategic pivot designed to project Iraqi power far beyond its borders. At the nexus of Iraq's burgeoning nuclear ambitions stood Yahya el-Mossad. A brilliant Egyptian nuclear physicist in his mid-40s, Mossad was far more than a mere component of the program. He was its intellectual linchpin. He served as the principal architect of the Iraqi Reactor, a project personally sanctioned by Saddam Hussein. While officially designated for peaceful scientific research, this ambitious undertaking was viewed with profound and immediate suspicion by Israeli intelligence, which understood the dual-use nature of nuclear technology. Mossad's unique background made him an irreplaceable asset to Baghdad. Having completed his advanced studies in Soviet universities during the intense geopolitical climate of the Cold War, he possessed a rare and specialized depth of technical expertise, particularly concerning the design and operation of research reactors. Israeli analysts quickly recognized that Mossad's detailed knowledge could be critical in adapting such reactors for the production of plutonium, a direct pathway to nuclear weapons. Yet, what truly elevated Mossad from merely valuable to critically dangerous in Tel Aviv's assessment was not just his technical acumen, but his formidable capacity to train. He was the intellectual bridge, the mentor capable of cultivating and guiding an entirely new generation of Iraqi nuclear physicists. This ability ensured the long-term viability and self-sufficiency of Iraq's nuclear program, making his presence a strategic multiplier for Saddam Hussein's ambitions. The convergence of these factors, a brutal, expansionist dictator, inflammatory anti-Israeli rhetoric, and the acquisition of advanced nuclear technology from a major European power, created what Israel perceived as an imminent and existential threat. The French government, prioritizing lucrative oil contracts and diplomatic influence, had controversially agreed to sell Iraq a 40-megawatt Osiris-class research reactor. Publicly, the sale was justified for peaceful scientific purposes, focusing on medical isotopes and energy research. Privately, Israeli intelligence, spearheaded by the Mossad, the country's national intelligence agency, and Amman, its military intelligence directorate, had reached a different, far more alarming conclusion. They meticulously tracked a clear and unambiguous pattern. A hostile regime, known for its aggression, was acquiring dual-use nuclear technology from a European nation motivated by economic gain. This technology, ostensibly benign, possessed inherent capabilities for weapons development. This escalating threat directly challenged a fundamental and hardening Israeli policy, later codified as the Begin Doctrine, named after Prime Minister Menachem Begin. Its premise was stark and unequivocal. Israel would not, under any circumstances, permit any hostile state in the region to develop nuclear weapons. This was not merely a political stance, it was an article of faith, a doctrine forged from the crucible of the Holocaust and the ongoing struggle for survival in a volatile region. For Israel, the prospect of a nuclear-armed Iraq under Saddam Hussein represented an unacceptable risk, a red line that, if crossed, could trigger cataclysmic consequences. However, the immediate implementation of this doctrine presented profound strategic and operational challenges. Direct military strikes against facilities located deep within Iraqi territory were deemed logistically complex and militarily risky, requiring extensive planning and potentially risking significant casualties. Furthermore, any overt military action against installations on French soil was politically unthinkable, almost certainly provoking widespread international condemnation, alienating key European allies, and potentially triggering a broader regional conflict that Israel, still recovering from 1973, was ill-prepared to manage. The Mossad, therefore, was tasked with devising an alternative, a less conventional, more clandestine approach that could effectively disrupt the Iraqi nuclear program without triggering a full-scale international crisis or overt warfare. Yahya el-Mossad, through a peculiar and almost inexplicable preference in his travel habits, provided that unique and critical opportunity. Detailed intelligence documents, painstakingly compiled over months of surveillance, revealed that the physicist traveled frequently between Baghdad and Paris, where the Iraqi reactor components were under construction by the French company, Construction Navale et Industrielle de la Méditerranée. Crucially, Mossad consistently eschewed direct flights. For reasons never fully ascertained by Israeli intelligence, he routinely opted for a slower, more circuitous route that often involved extensive European train travel. This choice, perhaps conceived by Iraqi security as a measure of protection against air surveillance or direct interception, ironically rendered him far more vulnerable to a clandestine extraction operation. It presented a crucial operational window, a period of relative isolation within an enclosed, mobile environment, traversing foreign jurisdictions where Israeli presence could be denied, thereby offering a veneer of plausible deniability for any action taken. The implications of Mossad's travel patterns were immediately clear to the Mossad. This was the opening they needed. The decision was escalated to the highest echelons of Israel's intelligence and political leadership. After careful deliberation, intense debate, and meticulous analysis of the intelligence presented, a high-stakes consensus was reached. Mossad would be extracted. The primary objective was unequivocal: thorough interrogation. Israeli intelligence desperately sought precise technical details of the Iraqi nuclear program, the exact design specifications of the Iraqi Reactor, its projected completion timeline, the precise level of French involvement in training Iraqi personnel, and, most critically, any evidence confirming Iraq's efforts to acquire enriched uranium from sources beyond the officially sanctioned French provisions. This information was vital to accurately assess the true military potential and timeline of Iraq's nuclear aspirations. Should the intelligence gathered confirm Israel's gravest suspicions regarding the program's military intent, a secondary, far more drastic objective was authorized: the permanent neutralization of Yahya el-Mossad. This was a decision weighed with immense moral and strategic implications, but deemed a necessary evil for national security. The operation, meticulously planned and known only by its internal codename to the select cadre of operatives involved, was immediately greenlit. The first tentative steps of a daring and controversial mission had begun. The clock had started ticking, not just for Mossad, but for the trajectory of nuclear proliferation in the Middle East, setting in motion a chain of events that would ripple across decades. With the explicit authorization for Yahya el-Mossad's extraction and potential neutralization, the Mossad commenced an operational phase of unprecedented meticulousness. Over several months, dedicated teams of Qassas, the agency's elite field operatives, were deployed across major European capitals. Their primary mission was the exhaustive and granular surveillance of Mossad, transforming his every habit and movement into critical intelligence. This was not a swift, tactical maneuver, but a slow, methodical crawl through the intricate details of a man's life. Agents shadowed Mossad from the moment he arrived in Paris, a bustling hub for international scientific collaboration, to his frequent sojourns in Rome, a key transit point for his return journeys to Baghdad. Every facet of his existence became data. The specific hotels he habitually chose, often discreet, high-end establishments that afforded a degree of privacy. The particular Parisian cafes where he took his morning coffee, often accompanied by a specific Arabic newspaper, the academic bookstores he browsed, frequently lingering over texts on theoretical physics and reactor design, his dining preferences, his preferred routes for a late afternoon stroll along the Seine, even the brand of cigarettes he smoked, were all meticulously documented. This constant observation revealed a man deeply embedded in routine, almost to the point of being ritualistic. For Mossad, consistency was comfort. For the Mossad, it was a profound vulnerability. The surveillance team swiftly confirmed the critical piece of intelligence: Mossad's unwavering preference for train travel. Instead of direct flights, he consistently opted for the overnight express service from Paris to Rome. From Rome's Termini station, he would then catch a flight eastward. This 10-hour journey, typically departing Paris in the late evening and arriving in the Italian capital by dawn, represented the primary window of opportunity. It offered a contained environment, a moving vessel through the anonymity of the European night, where the political and logistical complexities of a direct air or ground operation were significantly mitigated. The fact that Mossad regularly booked a first-class private compartment further simplified the task of isolating him from other passengers. However, the operational challenges inherent in an extraction from a moving train were immense. How could a target be subdued and removed from a secure compartment without alerting the limited number of train staff or the dozens of sleeping passengers? The act itself had to be swift, silent, and virtually invisible. Then came the subsequent logistical nightmare: conducting a high-stress interrogation for several hours within the confined, potentially public space of a train, and then, if necessary, disposing of a body, all while moving through sovereign Italian territory. Any detection by local authorities, any unplanned stop, any unexpected passenger interaction could derail the entire mission, exposing Mossad operatives and triggering an international diplomatic crisis that Israel could ill afford. The stakes were unprecedented. To address these complexities, the Mossad's command structured a specialized, multidisciplinary team. Core to the operation were several highly experienced Qassas, selected not only for their fieldcraft, their ability to infiltrate, operate covertly, and execute under extreme pressure, but also for their temperament. These were individuals capable of maintaining absolute composure in fluid, high-stress environments. Alongside them were specialists in psychological operations and interrogation, chosen for their expertise in extracting sensitive information without resorting to overt, easily traceable physical coercion. Their methods focused on sensory deprivation, disorientation, and the systematic breakdown of psychological resistance. Extensive logistical support was established. A dedicated unit was responsible for fabricating an intricate network of false documents and cover identities. Each operative received a meticulously crafted backstory, complete with authentic-looking passports, train tickets, currency, and personal effects designed to withstand cursory scrutiny. These identities, ranging from affluent tourists to low-profile businessmen, were not merely papers. They were entire fabricated lives, rehearsed and ingrained to ensure flawless execution. Parallel to this, a separate logistical team established secure communication channels and pre-positioned exfiltration vehicles at various strategic locations south of Rome, anticipating the need for a swift, untraceable departure from Italy following the operation. A crucial, indeed pivotal component of the plan involved a female agent, a veteran of numerous honeypot operations within Mossad's clandestine network. Her identity remains classified, known only by her operational code name. Her assignment was delicate: to cultivate a relationship with Mossad in Paris. Her approach was calculated. She was introduced as an academic researcher, ostensibly passionate about nuclear physics, particularly the very niche and complex field in which Mossad specialized. Her role was not merely to seduce, but to intellectually captivate him. She would engage him in profound, stimulating conversations about the future of nuclear energy, the intricacies of reactor design, and the geopolitical implications of scientific advancement. This intellectual flattery was designed to appeal directly to Mossad's ego and his scholarly pride, traits commonly found in academics of his stature. The agent's objective was to subtly, almost imperceptibly, influence Mossad's travel plans. She would express a desire to continue their fascinating discussions, perhaps suggesting a chance meeting on the same train, or subtly endorsing the comfort and privacy of a first-class compartment for long-distance intellectual pursuits. Her ultimate goal was to ensure Mossad would, of his own volition and without the slightest hint of external influence, book passage on the specific Paris-Rome night train on the predetermined date set by the Mossad command. Her success was critical. without Mossad on that train, the entire operation would collapse. As the chosen night in June 1975 approached, every piece of the complex mosaic fell into place. The Mossad's command structure had orchestrated not just an operation, but Mossad's entire immediate future. The scientist, immersed in his academic pursuits and perhaps flattered by the attention of an intelligent, engaging colleague, remained blissfully unaware. He would follow his routine, make his booking, and board his train. The operatives, disguised as ordinary passengers, a German couple, an Italian businessman, a lone English tourist, had already secured their compartments, strategically positioned in proximity to Mossad's. They had studied the train's blueprints, memorized the layout of the carriages, and rehearsed their precise movements. The entire journey, from the clatter of the tracks to the subtle creak of a compartment door, was a meticulously written script, with Yahya el-Mossad unknowingly cast as the central, unwitting character. A quiet, almost imperceptible tension settled over the European rail network, a prelude to the dramatic hidden events that would soon unfold in the darkness. The night of June 1975 unfurled with an almost unremarkable normalcy across Western Europe. At Paris's Grande Gare de Lyon, the usual late-evening tableau played out. A steady stream of weary travelers, the distant announcement of departures echoing through the cavernous hall, the distinctive scent of diesel and simmering coffee. Among them was Yahya el-Mossad, the Egyptian nuclear physicist, embarking on his familiar nocturnal journey. Unburdened by any premonition, Mossad moved with the unhurried confidence of a man accustomed to his routine, a scholar anticipating a quiet respite before returning to the demanding rhythm of Baghdad. He located his first-class compartment on the Paris-Rome train de nuit, a private sanctuary adorned with plush velvet seating, a small writing desk, and a window offering a transient glimpse of the city lights before yielding to the encroaching darkness of the countryside. He settled in, perhaps preparing notes, perhaps simply unwinding, entirely oblivious to the meticulous web that had been woven around him for months. As the train pulled away from the station, Mossad made his way to the dining car. It was here, amidst the gentle clatter of cutlery and the hushed conversations of other passengers, that the Mossad's female agent executed her critical role. Her approach was practiced, disarmingly natural. She casually noted Mossad's presence, making eye contact, and, feigning recognition from a previous fabricated academic conference in Geneva, initiated a conversation. Her persona was expertly crafted. An intelligent, inquisitive researcher, genuinely fascinated by the advanced principles of nuclear physics, precisely Mossad's intellectual milieu. She spoke with a nuanced understanding of reactor design and the theoretical challenges of advanced energy production, lacing her discourse with subtle questions that allowed Mossad to expound upon his expertise. Mossad, isolated for weeks from intellectual peers in the highly secretive Iraqi program, and perhaps a touch lonely, responded with the predictable enthusiasm of an academic given an appreciative audience. He was clearly flattered by her informed interest, engaging in a lively discussion that traversed scientific breakthroughs, the intricate politics of international collaboration, and the potential future of nuclear technology. His guard, already lowered by his sense of routine and the comfort of the train, dissolved further under the weight of her intelligent flattery. He saw a kindred spirit, not a meticulously placed operative. He noted nothing unusual in her demeanor, nor did he detect the subtle, almost imperceptible hand signals she exchanged with another agent casually observing from a nearby table, confirming Mossad's relaxed state and the successful execution of her phase of the operation. While Mossad was engrossed in this academic reverie, the other pieces of the Mossad's intricate puzzle were falling into place. As the train made its brief scheduled stop in Lyon, two figures, unremarkable in their trench coats and briefcases, boarded discreetly, blending seamlessly with the few late-night travelers. They moved with a practiced, almost invisible efficiency, making their way to their pre-assigned compartments without drawing a second glance. Hours later, during another brief halt in Turin, a third operative joined the train, his entry equally devoid of fanfare. These were not random passengers. They were the core extraction team, each assigned a specific role, their timing precise to the second, their movements rehearsed countless times. Their presence on the train was a testament to months of planning, observation, and meticulous infiltration. Mossad, now returned to his compartment, perhaps still replaying segments of his stimulating conversation, saw nothing, suspected nothing. The rhythmic sway of the carriage, the distant rumble of the tracks, and the quiet solitude of his private space lulled him into a false sense of security. The true climax of the operation began just after 2 a.m. The train was now deep within the Italian countryside, hurtling through an expanse of absolute darkness, broken only by the occasional distant farmlight or a fleeting glimpse of an ancient silhouette against the moonless sky. The vast majority of passengers were deep in sleep, their dreams punctuated only by the incessant, lulling rhythm of the rails. This was the predetermined operational window: maximum isolation, minimal witnesses. With a silent, synchronized precision that defined the Mossad's doctrine of surgical intervention, 3 operatives moved on Mossad's compartment. One approached the main door, his hand already positioned to neutralize the lock mechanism with a specialized tool. Simultaneously, the other 2 operatives accessed the compartment from an unexpected direction. Through a technical connection point between the carriages, a narrow, normally locked service corridor that had been covertly compromised hours earlier by an advance team. This multi-point entry was designed to overwhelm Mossad instantly, denying him any chance to resist or alert others. The breach was executed with brutal efficiency. The door clicked open, and the 2 operatives from the service corridor burst in simultaneously with the agent at the main door. Mossad, startled awake from a light slumber by the sudden intrusion, barely had time to register the shadowy figures. Before he could utter a sound, let alone a cry for help, one operative moved with lightning speed, applying a precise carotid chokehold. The technique, a specialized method known to induce rapid unconsciousness by temporarily restricting blood flow to the brain, was non-fatal but overwhelmingly effective. Within seconds, Mossad's eyes glazed over, his body went limp, and he slumped forward, unconscious. Another 2 agents worked with trained alacrity, securing his wrists and ankles with lightweight yet incredibly strong restraints. The entire process, from entry to complete immobilization, took less than 90 seconds. No shouts, no struggle, no broken furniture. The operation was executed with the chilling precision of a practiced ritual. Once Mossad was subdued and bound, he was swiftly and silently moved. The operatives hoisted his unconscious form through the now empty corridor, past the darkened compartments of other sleeping passengers, and into a pre-selected compartment several carriages away. This space had been prepared specifically for the interrogation. It was sparsely furnished, with heavy blinds drawn, and a subtle but effective sound-dampening material temporarily affixed to the walls, ensuring that no sound from within could escape. The air was cool, sterile, and still. For the next 4 hours, as the train continued its relentless journey towards Rome, Yahya el-Mossad was subjected to an interrogation under what intelligence reports would later describe as intense psychological pressure. The methods employed were sophisticated, designed to systematically erode his will and resistance without leaving overt physical marks. He was kept disoriented, deprived of sensory input, his temporal perception blurred. While there is no evidence of extreme physical torture, the psychological environment was relentlessly hostile. Interrogators used a combination of sustained questioning, sleep deprivation, and environmental manipulation, subtle changes in temperature, light, and sound frequencies, to break his resolve. Crucially, substances that would reduce psychological resistance without completely compromising lucidity were administered. These were likely sophisticated pharmacological agents, designed to induce a state of heightened suggestibility, memory recall, and diminished inhibitions, allowing Mossad to access and articulate highly sensitive information without his normal intellectual and psychological defenses. He would have been lucid enough to comprehend and respond to questions, but too impaired to resist the overwhelming compulsion to speak. And Mossad spoke. Under the relentless pressure, the carefully guarded secrets of the Iraqi nuclear program began to spill forth. He confirmed that the Iraqi Reactor's development timeline was significantly ahead of previous Israeli intelligence estimates, indicating a faster path to operational capacity. He divulged critical technical specifications, detailed design elements that underscored the reactor's potential for plutonium production, extending far beyond civilian research applications. He named other key scientists involved in the program, individuals whose existence and roles were previously unknown to Israeli intelligence, thus broadening Tel Aviv's understanding of the program's scope and depth. Most alarmingly, Mossad revealed that secret negotiations were indeed underway between Baghdad and various clandestine suppliers for enriched uranium, bypassing the official French channels entirely. This confirmed Israel's worst fears. The Iraqi nuclear program was not a peaceful research initiative, but a full-fledged, accelerated race towards weaponization. The implications were catastrophic for regional stability, and Mossad's coerced revelations provided the Mossad with the damning, unequivocal proof it had risked everything to obtain. The objective information was collected, the existential threat was confirmed. With the extensive and critical intelligence successfully extracted from Yahya el-Mossad, the operational objectives escalated to their grim conclusion. As the train made its brief stop in Milan, an encrypted message reached Tel Aviv. The response from Israeli command was unequivocal. Neutralization permanent. Mossad possessed too much sensitive information, and his elimination was deemed a strategic imperative to critically delay the Iraqi nuclear program. However, as the train approached Rome, an unforeseen logistical challenge arose. Discreetly removing a body from the bustling Termini station was deemed too risky. The solution, born of cold professional improvisation, was immediate. Mossad, still under the influence of pharmacological agents, was killed by controlled asphyxiation, a method chosen for its minimal external traces. His body was then meticulously arranged to simulate a natural death, head propped against the window, a book in his lap, spectacles askew. Any faint marks from his subduing were carefully concealed by his posture, and the compartment was thoroughly wiped clean. As dawn broke, the train made a brief, unscheduled stop at a small station south of Rome, a prearranged contingency point. The operatives, indistinguishable from ordinary travelers, quietly disembarked into a waiting, unmarked vehicle. Mossad's body was left undisturbed in his compartment, to be discovered hours later at Rome Termini by a cleaning crew. The initial discovery caused controlled confusion. Italian railway authorities first attributed the death to natural causes, a plausible narrative given Mossad's medical history. However, once his identity was confirmed and Iraqi authorities notified, the situation escalated dramatically. Baghdad immediately denounced the incident as a premeditated assassination, directly accusing Israel and vowing retribution. The French government, already embroiled in diplomatic controversy over the Iraqi Reactor sale and wary of its relations with Iraq, launched a discreet but intensive investigation. Italian forensic reports, initially supporting the natural death theory, began to unravel under closer scrutiny. Faint marks around Mossad's neck and subtle indentations on his wrists were eventually identified, contradicting the initial findings and replacing the natural death narrative with strong suspicion of foul play. Italy found itself in a complex diplomatic dilemma. Openly accusing Israel, a Western ally, risked severe bilateral tensions and backlash. Conversely, ignoring evidence of a political assassination on its soil would set a dangerous precedent for foreign intelligence operations. The outcome was a strategically ambiguous investigation. Official reports cited suspicious circumstances, but named no definitive culprits. Israel, adhering to its doctrine of plausible deniability, never confirmed nor denied involvement. This stance allowed Tel Aviv to send a clear, chilling message to any scientist considering work on nuclear programs deemed hostile to Israel. The geopolitical consequences of the operation unfolded across multiple layers in the ensuing years. The Iraqi nuclear program suffered a significant and critical delay. Mossad's irreplaceable expertise created a knowledge void that took years to fill. Furthermore, the operation had a palpable psychological impact. Several Egyptian and Soviet nuclear physicists reportedly reconsidered contracts with Baghdad, fearing they too could become targets. Saddam Hussein, driven by paranoia, increased security around his remaining scientists and facilities, ironically making the program more visible to Western and Israeli surveillance. The operation also solidified the Begin doctrine, unequivocally affirming that direct action was justified against hostile nuclear proliferation when diplomacy failed. This doctrine would shape Israel's proactive security stance for decades. However, this effectiveness came with a strategic cost. Mossad's death, while delaying the program, did not prevent it. 6 years later, in 1981, Israel launched Operation Opera, an audacious airstrike that destroyed the Iraqi Reactor, a mission only made possible by the crucial time bought through Mossad's extraction. This airstrike, in turn, fueled decades of controversy over preemptive strikes and sovereignty violations. Mossad's assassination also set a dangerous precedent for extraterritorial killings of scientists as a non-proliferation tool, allegedly repeated in later decades, igniting fierce ethical debates on preemptive justice versus state terrorism. The true genius of the operation lay not just in its precise execution, but in its impeccable timing and profound psychological impact. The Mossad had struck when Iraq's program was most vulnerable, creating a critical knowledge vacuum and sending an indelible deterrent message to other scientists. Decades later, many details remain classified, and Mossad's death, though officially natural, was a known falsehood. For Israel, it was a strategic success, buying invaluable time. For critics, it epitomized prioritizing operational efficacy above international human rights. Its ambiguous and disturbing legacy persists. While Mossad's removal undeniably hindered a brutal dictator's nuclear ambitions, it also normalized extraterritorial assassinations, eroding international legal frameworks. The shadow of that night train continues to haunt debates about the ethical limits of national security and the moral and legal price of survival. The morning light, breaking over the Italian countryside, illuminated not a peaceful slumber, but the chilling silence of a life extinguished. Yahya el-Mossad, a man whose mind held the blueprints of a nuclear future, lay lifeless in his compartment, a carefully staged tableau masking a brutal act of statecraft. His clandestine extraction and subsequent death, orchestrated with surgical precision, successfully delayed Iraq's nuclear ambitions and delivered critical intelligence to Tel Aviv, affirming Israel's dire predictions. Yet, the carefully constructed illusion of natural demise could not withstand the meticulous gaze of forensic science, triggering a diplomatic storm and leaving a trail of uncomfortable questions for all involved. This single, isolated act on a night train transcended its immediate impact. It solidified a doctrine of preemptive action, redefining the acceptable boundaries of national security in a volatile world. For one nation, it was an imperative for survival, a testament to the chilling efficacy of unseen forces. For international law, it presented a troubling precedent, a silent erosion of sovereignty in the name of existential threat. The legacy of such operations is a mosaic of averted dangers and profound ethical quandaries, a constant echo of the moral cost exacted when the shadows of espionage dictate the fate of nations and individuals. The shadow of that night train, carrying a scientist who never reached his destination, still lengthens across the landscape of international relations, haunting debates on the permissible limits of state action. In the complex tapestry of global power, where does the line truly lie between necessary action for national survival and the dangerous normalization of clandestine violence? We invite your thoughts on this profound dilemma in the comments below. If this deep dive into the hidden maneuvers of international intelligence has captured your imagination, be sure to explore our other chronicles of covert history. Join the Black Protocol community for more untold stories that shaped our world. Like this video and subscribe to our channel for new insights into the protocols of power.